Welcome to Well Played Podcast, a show on all things playful and joyous in education. I'm your host, Michael Matera, and Well Played Podcast is part of the On Podcast Media Network. I am a sixth grade teacher, author, and motivational speaker, and I am super excited. Today we have with us Jed Dearybury and Julie Jones. So let's bring them on. Super excited to have you guys here with us. And they are, as we pointed out in the sort of pre-show talk up, they are my first masked guests. So maybe I shouldn't have introduced you. Maybe it should have just been a fun episode of Guess Who I Have.
Guess who we are?
Yeah.
It's a mysterious wonder.
That could have been super awesome. This is season 4, episode 13 coming at us. And super excited to have you guys talking today with me and like with this community about something that's clearly passionate to all three of us. And that is just sort of that whole sort of power of play. You guys just finished writing a book and getting it published and released.
Yeah.
Was that last week or 2 weeks ago? It's definitely recent.
Well,
hot off the
it'll
press.
be released. It's in pre-order now, so it'll be released on the 30th. But it is in our hands.
We got our copy.
Yes, there it is.
Look at that.
Thank you.
There it be, the Playful Classroom.
Yeah. Big shout out to Peter Reynolds, who did our cover.
Yes, all of this beautiful artwork is Peter Reynolds, author of The Dot and many beautiful works.
Yeah, we're really excited that he partnered with us to do that. So
that's awesome.
Shout out to him.
Yeah.
All right, so here we are. We're talking about that importance, right? The importance of play in our classrooms. Before we sort of get into that, I think it's good that people get kind of a bit of our backgrounds, right? So I think they already know I'm a sixth grade middle school teacher, but I know you guys have had quite, like I was looking over your guys' sort of resumes, your CVs that you guys have online, and there's more than one job in there.
There is.
Yes, there is.
True.
You know, every time somebody mentions a CV or a Vita or something like that, my first thought was, oh gosh, is it updated? Is it accurate?
Yeah.
You could have been looking at something from 2013. I don't know.
Well, then there's probably just more jobs on there.
Yeah. So, Julie, go first. Tell them a little bit about what you do.
So I started teaching in 1999 in the field of special education, and I went from special education at a high school level to 4th grade general education because I just wanted to impact younger students, right? So I taught 4th grade, and then I looped up with my class and taught 5th grade. Missed special ed, went back into special ed for a few years, started a charter school in our town, finished my doctorate, went and am back home at my undergraduate institution at Converse College. And I direct early childhood education programs, and I direct student teaching there. And yeah, we wrote a book.
We wrote a book. That's like up to date on the CV now.
That's the newest line, 2020.
That's awesome.
And for me, I'm a lot like Julie. Anybody in education, I feel like our titles and our job description changes a lot.
Yeah.
I started out, early childhood is my heart. I started in 1st grade in 2001, and then I transitioned to 2nd grade. I taught 1st and 2nd grade. I did teach 3rd grade 1 year. That was from 2001 until 2015. In 2015, I transitioned to a professional development facilitator for an organization here in South Carolina. But also around 2010, I started doing some adjunct work in higher ed. And then...
Which is where we met.
At the same college. And then last school year, I decided to take a leap of faith and just start my own mrmatera.com LLC. I've had my website for years and just became a consultant, but I'm still very involved. I teach 4 classes for the University of South Carolina Upstate and University of South Carolina Aiken. One of those courses is online, and then the other 3 are in person. Children's Lit, Creativity and Play for early childhood, which this will be the textbook for that course. And
definitely
also,
a college professor move right there.
Yeah. Well, you know what? So that's a perfect transition. That's why we wrote the book originally.
That's true.
When we originally started this work, it was because we needed something to hand to our students that was a total picture of what we were trying teach them to be.
Well, and all the books that are out there either have little people as the audience for play, or why play is important in the early years, but nothing that encompassed the whole age span. You know, I mean, they're in college, but they learn by experience. They learn through play, and there was no text that honored that. So that's part of it.
And the more we created this work, the more we realized this isn't a book for just new teachers. It's a book for all teachers, and really for all people who are in charge of leading learners.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a homeschool parent, if you are a camp director, if you are a museum director, anybody connected to any level of education needs to know the power of play for every age group, from kindergarten all the way up to 99 years old. So
yeah, I always say, like, with my book and some of the like responses I get, right, and then you have people that haven't read it yet, and they're like, well, will it work for, and fill in the blank, will it work for a first grade, will it work for a sixth grade, will it work for, I teach social studies, so sometimes they're like, will it work for something outside of social studies, will it work for the AP class? And I always say gamification and like playful learning, like good course design, really ultimately is good kindergarten all the way to PhD, right? PK to PhD. That's what I say. Like, so
that's a segue though, because I started following you on Twitter after your book. I got it and read it, and halfway through I thought, okay, I can't read this without action, and totally reshaped all of my college courses. So they are all gamified now.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Thank you.
So excited about it. Yeah.
Appreciate
We're in 3 years now.
And it works, right? I mean, because you're talking about good design, right? It doesn't matter the age. And
the power of choice, all of those features where they get to choose their own quest or mission that they're in.
Yeah, no, they bought it. It's so important. It's so huge, and I'm so glad that you guys added, to that space, because really, like, I'm just a big believer. Like, this is such an important fight, and the more people that kind of get out there and are champions of that, the more resources out there. It's kind of one of those, high tides raise all boats kind of mentality. Like, it's so important that we got to get back to the power of play at all grade levels and outside. Like, even realize, just as adults, we learn through play. We learn through tinkering with something and kind of being playful. Yeah, that's important.
If you've ever read any of Dr. Stuart Brown's work on play, he writes a lot about that and points adults to how we need more of that. And what we hope is that even some boardrooms will pick up this book and say, hey, how can we make our boardrooms more playful? And because adults are so tired of the sit and get PowerPoint, death by meeting, death by Zoom call. People are just tired of that kind of learning. And it's just not relevant in our society anymore. We've got to change the way we present the learning.
100%. Yeah. I mean, even thinking through different ways to do our own presentations, like when we go and present, I definitely think about ways to make it playful. I just ran a online like webinar course for a district, and I actually embedded a game throughout the entire presentation. So like, as we're learning, we're also playing the side game that only reinforces the concepts we're talking about, right? So
sounds awesome.
Shifting that idea of how we present, then I don't know, it changes. Like, learners have changed, how we take in information has changed, technology has changed, lots of things have changed. So it doesn't surprise me that eventually it gets down to the presenter needs to change. Like, how we deliver information needs to change.
And that's part of the catalyst for this, is that we recognize that if we continue to just tell people this works, then they're like, oh, yay, but I'm really happy in my traditional comfort zone. But if we get out there and show you and model and talk about our experience by showing, that's going to be the game changer. Game changer.
I like it. So you guys, in your book, I mean, right? So if this is like coming out before your book comes out, because this will be out next Tuesday, so that'll be right around your book coming out.
We're hopeful that the people who pre-ordered will get it maybe end of this week, but definitely by the 30th is what we're being told. They'll receive it by the 30th.
Yeah, we were told we're a little ahead of schedule, which is good news. with the printing.
So, okay, so like as a little bit of a teaser to people that haven't bought your book yet, or if they're listening to this podcast 6 months from now and they're like, ooh, I want to pick up that book. What would you say would be like, I always talk about these things as like pearls. When I go to a conference, if I get one or two pearls that I get to like use and take and shift my pedagogy, that's huge. And so, and I get in a book, and I wrote a book, and there's all sorts of resources in there. There's all sorts of changes you could make. But ultimately, for a $20 book, truly, if you had one or two takeaways that's just so good, what's something you're super excited to get in the hands, drilled down? Your answer cannot be the book.
Oh, that's
What say
hard.
you, Julie? That's a great question.
Oh my gosh. I think really the one, it's told in the voice of how we talk. So like right now we're sitting at a coffee shop in downtown. You can see all the people walking behind us. So the book is very conversational, and it is going to feel like you're sitting at the table with us. So that's one. It makes
Style.
Research. Yes, it makes research approachable. So we have tons of research-based practices throughout that justify what we're saying. We're not just saying it because we've done it and it works. We're saying it because this has been studied and this is accurate. But one of the takeaways that was so big for me in my reading and as we were writing it is that play is too often seen as the opposite of work, where really the opposite of play is depression. So play is the way in which we work now. So work is not go to your desk and do the 20 problems. Work is, here is the problem, let's work together to figure it out. It's all of those C's, the collaboration, the creativity, but honoring that with knowing that play is valuable and valid. I don't know if you can hear that enunciation with this mask on, but valuable and valid.
Yeah. Valuable and valid. That was the...
I think so.
That's good.
That's for me.
That's good.
The nugget for me, I think, is we are very transparent in the book about our evolution on this journey.
Yes.
And how we tried and we failed, but we tried again. And that there's no, I will tell you right now, we don't say that the way we do it is the only way.
True.
But we do strongly agree that this is a really good way that everybody should try, but you're not going to be perfect at it. You're going to mess up.
Right.
And all throughout the book, I think we are very open and honest about the struggles that we had, about the pushback from administrators, the parents that may question, the districts that may say, "Ooh, is the rigor there?" That's the buzzword. We talk about teachers that we worked with, both that we have been colleagues with, and also some that we've had as a parent, who challenged our thinking and pushed our thinking. And
well, just that evolution. We would sit here in this spot and argue. I can't tell that story, Jed. I can't tell that story. And he said, Julie, you have to tell that story because the people need to know. They're probably in that place right now.
Yes.
And to learn from where I really grew as a teacher in a very direct instruction, this is the way to learn, standardized testing scores will go up. And just that reframing, that it took me a while. I was not sold in the beginning, but I am a believer. It's like you're standing naked on the street corner when you put yourself out there like that.
That is what the day that we submitted our final manuscript to the publisher, that's how I felt. Like we had just stripped completely naked and stood right out here in Main Street.
Yes.
So
for everybody to look at us.
Like, oh my God, people are going to read this.
So there you go, people. The nugget, the thing that they're so excited about is this naked in the street. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Maybe we should go ahead and put a label and
Michael, you say naked. It's not. It's naked.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, Michael, because look, in our book, so you heard her say that we wrote it like we talk. We ain't from around the same part you are.
That is so true.
It is evident in this conversation.
We have our own vocabulary down here. And so in the book, we use a lot of what we call Southernisms.
Uh-huh.
So are you saying
back,
are you saying the Google Doc that you worked on the book in had lots of red squiggly lines you just let go?
Oh my
yes,
gosh.
yes,
Google does not know how to spell matter no wet hen.
yeah. So
It
we
does not
had
know how
to,
to spell that.
we definitely had to overlook the red line, but we do have a glossary of terms in the back.
Yep.
That's good.
Quite,
You have a little
quite,
translate. I actually heard this week in the new Apple Web Developer Conference that they just released Siri can now translate. So your book, I could just
yeah.
I could just
There you
have,
go.
I could say, what does this mean?
I'll
What
be
is,
interested to see if Siri knows. If Siri knows our translation, let me know.
yeah,
I'll be
Happier than a woodpecker in a lumber yard.
yeah, I want to know what that is. I want to know what that is. That's,
well, I mean, think about how happy a woodpecker would be in a lumber yard. I mean, it just takes what we Southerners are good at is embellishing emotion.
Yep.
We're good at that,
this
and we
sounds,
can't
this
just say
sounds like a playful book just right from its onset.
it
Go,
does. Look, and when you read, what I hope is when people read this book, I hope they will watch this and read it because then they can hear our dialogue, and that is exactly what this whole book is. It's the whole thing is.
It's us fussing at each other.
Yeah,
It is.
it really is.
It's true.
I love it.
And you're going to laugh. It's a very playful book. We wrote it just that way. And for like a hot second, we thought, oh, people might not take this serious, but it's who we are.
Yeah.
It's very authentic.
That's awesome. And I think when you write from the heart like that, people feel it, people know it, and that's how you can create change as well.
Yeah.
And seeing you both be so playful and happy in your spaces, you've both had journeys through different classrooms in which you saw
Yeah.
sort of that power of play, and it definitely informed you. Julie came on XP Lab, I don't know, years ago, and I remember kind of how excited you were, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to try this, I'm going to do this. And then you came back
Yes.
and you've tried those things and you were like, this worked, this is happening. And I'm so proud that your work, your story for both of you have led to this culminating point. And I know it is actually just going to be a new beginning. Not, I shouldn't have said culminating like it's over, like it's not a pinnacle. You guys got a lot more ideas out there, and
we're still climbing that mountain.
You are, and that's the other thing too with play. It's never over, right? Like there is no finish line. When I talk about designing a gamified class, there is no done point. It is a lot of work, but it's the right kind of work,
Yeah. That's something that it's very important for people to hear. It is work. Teaching in a playful classroom is not going to be easy for some people because the one thing that traditional education gives us is a scope and a sequence and a lesson plan and textbook. And the playful classroom, sometimes you have to deviate from all of that.
Oh, you forgot one other thing. It also
what
has,
did I forget?
It also has low expectations of engagement.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, like
it does.
I don't have to if I was to approach my classroom as a traditional teacher of just I'm just gonna hum through the content. I'm gonna hand you some worksheets. We're gonna do those worksheets. We're gonna take quizzes, take tests. Kids wouldn't like it for sure, but kids also really wouldn't complain that much because that's the assumption of school, right? So they wouldn't really give me super low marks on a review. But that's because they don't understand we could ask to change that, right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we assume that lack of poor scores to be like, well, see, they're doing it right. And it's like, no, it's because when you ask an 11-year-old if that's okay, they assume that's school.
That's the status quo.
It's what we've taught them. It's what we taught them school is.
Yeah.
I think if you look at what kids are saying about the e-learning experience, you will learn that engagement has to be number one. Just this morning, I was talking with the director of the American Camp Association, and we were talking about an experience that's coming up that I'm going to be working with them with, and he was asking me about, delivering learning online. And I said, you have to make sure the engagement piece is over the top, because when kids are learning from home, they're distracted by their dog, their little sister, their TV, their radio. Do they even have a radio?
See, that's just one of those funny words you guys use. We don't use that word anymore up here.
But what I mean is if the engagement is not there online, there's 1,000 other things to distract them that you don't even deal with at school.
Yeah, I think with online teaching, I did, what did our school principal tell us? We did 49 days of online learning. And the two pieces that I think need to be the forefront of your online class, and the hope that I think the three of us have for you listeners, is you realize it's the thing that should be the forefront of any class, and that is that is the engagement, like you said, and then the other piece is the relationship. And I know a lot of online teachers that just kind of said, well, I got to roll through this content, or I got to get this, or we got to get them ready for this test or whatever. You need to take care of that relationship. And then, as Jed pointed out about being over the top, the analogy I use is, if you've ever seen actors backstage and their makeup, like actors for stage acting, like in a play, it is over the top makeup, but you don't notice it's over the top when you're in your seat, right? Like that far back, it looks just right. But like, in person, you're like, that's ridiculous makeup in person.
Yeah.
And online, you got to almost dial it up and be extra energetic, extra sort of over the top, because on the other end, you're actually flat. I'm just two-dimensional. Like, you're right. The dog's over there. My window's right behind you guys, and I'm looking. It's a gorgeous day. Like, you know.
Yeah, or you can't tell on your screen that I'm really over here playing Minecraft, and I'm just halfway listening.
Look, I can't lie to you, Michael. This is the first time I've really been out and about since March. And I'm looking in the window of the bookstore right now as we talk. And there are 10 books that I'm going to go in there and buy.
Wait, Jed, on the podcast, you're admitting you're not listening to the podcast?
No,
Yeah,
I'm admitting, I'm admitting that I'm distracted. There is a Stephen King book right behind your head right now.
People. If you are still with us, that makes one, because Jed's not with us right now. We got Julie and I. We're carrying on.
Edit that part out. Edit that out.
That's awesome. That is awesome. But right there, guys, is another. I'm going to sort of pivot a little bit. I'm not certain if it's in your book. Obviously, I haven't read your book, but playful moments like that. Like, we were just relational. We were ourselves. And if there's a message also, I would love teachers to realize, it's not in my book because that wasn't the scope, but that's an aspect of being playful. Like, that moment to be yourself. Like, that joke was all of like a minute. Like, give the minute for that joke in your classrooms, people. Like,
so the book is divided into 7 sections. Section 4 is talking about play builds relationships. And what happened was a moment of playfulness that strengthened our relationship.
You got it.
Because Michael's already forgiven you for checking out.
Yeah, but he's also going to text me later wanting to know that Stephen King book.
That's right.
The Institute. It's called The Institute. I don't know what it's about, but it looks good.
That's awesome.
But seriously, one of the things that I have been saying for years, people have heard me say it, is love first and teach second. And part of loving your students first is being authentic and being playful and having these moments. One of the things we talk about in the book was a time when I was actually recording a video for the Presidential Award for Excellence in Math and Science Teaching. And I was super nervous about the video. It had to be 45 minutes long. And I was using Lego robotics for the very first time. Like, my students had never even touched them before. And I videoed that as my lesson. Okay? It could have been a horrendous storm of things. And the video was going really well.
Did you just bleep yourself?
I did bleep myself.
That's awesome.
I did.
That was awesome.
I said it.
Classy.
You can't see it behind the mask, but he might have mouthed the word.
Oh my gosh. So anyway, we're right in the middle. I was right in the middle of the lesson. Everything was so well. And this kid gets out, bullfrog, bullfrog. And we had this big picture window with a little man-made pond outside the window. And we knew there was a frog that was in that pond, but we had never seen it. We had always heard him splash into the water. Well, this particular time he was coming out, and I'm not lying to you, Michael, when I tell you that frog was as big as my head. I'm not exaggerating. Okay, he was huge. And right in the middle of the video, I was like, what do I do? So all the kids obviously ran to the window, So right there in the middle of that moment, we reviewed what we knew about amphibians. We sang a little song about the frog life cycle. We regurgitated our amphibian facts. And do you know, every judge feedback that I got about that video, they talked more about that moment than they did anything about the robots.
I don't know what that says about your robots, but what it does say is that you were able to be playful and pivot in that moment and capitalize on that playful moment, which I think is the moral of the story.
Well, I won the award, so hopefully.
Boom! Look at that.
And everybody at this coffee shop where we're sitting is looking around for a bullfrog right now.
Yeah, they are. Everybody's looking for a bullfrog.
I love it. So you guys being on the Well Played, I really appreciate you guys coming on. We do have reflection time now. And here's where I'm just going to give you guys a quote, and I want to have each of you sort of spin it, and I'll spin it as well, to sort of the overall message we had today. This one comes from Mr. Rogers.
Oh, put your sweater on.
I got my sweater right here.
He does. I love it.
It's right here.
Oh. All right, so here we go. Here's our Mr. Rogers moment.
Okay.
All right.
Play gives children a chance to practice what they are learning.
I'd say that's a really good summary for our entire book. Thank you for showing up today. It's good talking to you, Michael.
Boom! She just did a coffee drop.
Oh, say it again. Give me the quote again.
Play gives children a chance to practice what they are learning.
Okay. Do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I can. So one of the first things that we did as we wrote the book, we made a list of everything that we learned as a child from playing in the backyard, whether it be playing with our neighbors, playing alone, playing with a cardboard box. We made a list. And as I think about that quote and think about that list, we were really showing the world, whether they were watching or not at the moments we were playing in the backyard, what we had learned, how to get along with each other, how to problem solve, how to think through something new. We played baseball in my backyard hundreds of times without a ball, without a bat, and without bases, because we found a stick and a walnut and some ripped up pieces of cardboard, and we created a field. And so we were showing ourselves, showing each other how we could exist in the world and play and show what we had learned. I think that's a great quote from Mr. Rogers. I love it.
That's a good one. Well, there's a key word in that quote that's the children. And so Mr. Rogers did all the work, his work with children. But I think that he also spoke to adults. So I'd like to expand that a little, knowing that play is the language of learning for children. But just even, I don't know, just anytime if we're having a conversation, did you hear about this new app? No, I don't know. What are you talking about? So I download it. The first thing I'm going to do is start clicking, right?
No, you're going to read the app directions.
The user agreement, Julie.
Right.
The privacy.
Right. You got to read and click that I accept the terms. No, but I mean, play is the language of how we actually function. And it should be the language that we see in schools. We want it to be the language that's happening in schools, from Little People Land all the way up to higher education. We are proud to say that it is the language of our classrooms, and we hope that our experiences will then become someone else's experiences. You can internalize that and then continue to play. That's
awesome. The both of you told really good stories. I don't know how much more I can sum up on this. Again, the quote is play.
It's hard going third.
It is hard going third. I'm clean up here. Play gives children a chance to practice what they learn. I'm going to just spin it. I fully agree with what these two said. I'm also going to say that it's that idea of I want us all to see play as practice, right? Like that's what it is. I mean, like play there, you don't get a score for play. You just you're kind of exploring, and you're just sort of playing with it, and that is perfect practice, and why wouldn't we want that in our classrooms, right? So there's the challenge for today. Everyone, thank you guys for listening, and thank you, Jed and Julie, for coming on. I hope we can have you on again, maybe post-book. We can talk. I absolutely love everything about it, even your own language that you bring to this channel. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great day. Everyone else, thank you for being part of the Well Played community. I hope you guys have a great day. Take care and play on.